Hi, I'm Peter Purdy, the chap who owns the land round here. This field is right next door to the nursery, which we run, selling plants. Over 40 years of my life, I've picked up pieces of Roman pottery, got Britannia Archaeology involved in about 2012. They did some geophysing and found some great results underneath the soil. Then spoke to Dr. John Davis from the Cast Museum and said, do you think I could run a community archaeological project? And he said, you must be mad, but I'll help you if you want to. And this is what we've done, and the results have been absolutely amazing. With the guidance from Dr. John Davis regarding the project is to involve the community. It's always been about community and sharing what I am so lucky to have under the land here, because there's such a massive site of 30 or 40 acres of archaeology beneath our feet.
This is technically the first day on, I think it's Area G. Basically, we've just finished stripping this particular area. What we decided to do is we decided to open this area up. We've got ditches, enclosure ditches, we've got pits, we've got pottery coming out from the 1st century with the precursors to the rum greyware that we've got over the lake, around the kilns, and it's basically showing a continuity of land use between the ancient Britons.
And what I do is extend it out a little wider along this line here, and this top sort of inch you can just get through like that.
These pieces all came from this one dig here that I've done. The 3 pieces here I kept together because they all came out of that one area, and I think they may be from the same pot, so I'm keeping them together.
Right, well these are last year's finds, so we're just marking the last ones left. What you have to do is put this special solution on first, because if you try to write directly on the pottery it would just go in like blotting paper. So we know not only that it came from this dig last year, but from what part of the trench it came on.
We're just cleaning back the area this southern area in Area G. We've exposed a circular feature here that we're hoping is related to the other 1st century features that we've been finding. Adjacent to it is a ditch running directly across the excavated area, which we think might be medieval. The geophysics have shown that we've got ditches in this area, which we have found, and we found a load more features. We've got what look like pit clusters running along the western boundary of the excavation area.
I was just fiddling around with the tool in the ground, and then this popped up. It's a decorated piece of pottery.
Hello, this is Area B where we're working at the moment. Hopefully this afternoon they may start going downwards, and then hopefully after that the fire should start increasing, because they know full well there's an awful lot in the ground, and hopefully we can locate some fantastic objects. Isaac, you've been busy this morning at the Aylsham project. Can you show me anything that you found?
So here we've got the sort of bottom of a bowl.
Right, that's the bottom. Yeah, we'll see the corner. Right, yeah, beautiful.
And it goes up. And here we've got quite a nice big bit.
That is a big bit, isn't it?
Earlier on today we were digging what's called a dogleg section, and the The reason why this is basically L-shaped is because we were digging this section to find out the relationship between a feature that's coming in here and a feature that's going out there, and we needed to find out which cut what, which is earlier than the other basically. So whilst this was being dug and we established what cuts what, a large piece of basically medieval sort of slip glazed pottery came out. Now it was found also in the same context as a piece of 19th century glass. So, but what that's saying is that we've got a post-medieval ditch that's been cut through other deposits or has got other deposits put into them because of the topsoil. So we're looking at, rather ironically, we got 1st century AD pottery out of the other feature. So we're looking at a site that's got basically a date range from the 1st century AD all the way up to the 19th century.
So what we have here is the lower jaw of a cow. We've got the premolar, first molar, second molar and third molar, and this is from the right jaw. Just cleaning these up very carefully with brushes and sticks, because the teeth and the bone is incredibly fragile and starting to flake. So what I'm doing is cleaning it back and getting lots of records, lots of photographs, and then eventually they will be lifted. And these ones are so fragile, they're highly likely to break when they get lifted. We've also got some Roman tile and Roman pottery in here, which just exposing as I'm going along.
Well, when we started, we were in a situation where we were just clearing out what we'd found last year. We had the kiln walls from kiln 2. We started to take areas back through the buried soil level, and by taking that back even further, it's become apparent that kiln 2 is much larger than we initially believed.
I still can't quite get over this kiln. It's rather exciting, to say the least.
The kiln that we coined Kiln 2 last year is a smaller kiln that's built inside the shell of a much, much larger one. Why this is so fascinating is you don't find kilns in sort of that kind of size. It's at least 2.1 metres across, and the Kiln 2 structure is then built within it, and we have that internal wall complete, which is fantastic. You don't find things in situ stratigraphically like that very often. Floor from the first kiln, and it continues. It's in really, really good state of preservation, so I'd like to think that there's going to be a lot of people who are very interested in this for years to come. So finds, we've had roof tile, floor tile, there's a mortaria. Over in area B, we've got multiple sections through ditches. We have finds ranging from the Bronze Age, Iron Age, Roman, Saxon, medieval and post-medieval. However, we are getting much more evidence of ironworking over there, so it's something potentially we're going to have to look at next season.
My name's Zoe Aylsham and I'm from Historic England, and this is Catherine Foxton from the University of Bradford. We're here today to sample this lovely kiln for archaeomagnetic dating, which provides us a date with the last time this feature was fired. What we're doing is we're collecting little samples from across the feature, so from different parts, the outer wall, the inner lining, the floor of the kiln. And we will process that to tell us the magnetic direction that's recorded within this kiln, because the Earth's magnetic field has changed over time, and we can compare the magnetic direction recorded within our kiln to our records of how the field has changed over time to tell us how old this kiln is.
Two weeks ago we started in this area after the geophysics that we'd undertaken. We've excavated basically various features over the course of 2 weeks. We're now in the 3rd week. It's turned out to be rather special. So what we thought purely would be Iron Age, it's turned out we've got occupation in the 1st century forming part of a ladder enclosure. What's happened is they've all moved into the villa, they've moved away from here, then there's been a gap of about 800 years. So during the Romano-British period and the early and middle Saxon, they've moved away. Because of that, I'd say we still have the 1st century AD ladder settlement, and the further we dig into this field, the more we'll get of that. But in this particular area, it's 90% 10th to 12th century stuff. So it's the Saxons, late Saxons living in here, making pot, living here, tending their cattle, all sorts of stuff. And we're finding all of that rubbish in the ditches themselves and in pits and post holes and hearth places and stuff. So it's very, very interesting. Originally, I thought, right, cool, we'll just have some ditches, a couple of pits, Iron Age pottery, brilliant. And we ended up with a load of ditches, a load of pits, and Iron Age, late Saxon, early Saxon Norman, medieval, later medieval, and then post-medieval, all in the same hole. Effectively, it's given us 2,000 years of occupation on this site when we only thought we had 100 years in the 1st century.
It may just look like a load of ditches and pits, but it is really important because it tells us about how they were perhaps dividing up the landscape around the kilns more. Also, we've had evidence of metalworking coming from the large north-south ditch, which many of you have been hacking through today in the hope of finding more pot and treasures. And so that gives us an idea that they were doing some sort of metalworking. The general dating we've had over there is pretty much predominantly Roman, a lot of the pot looking like the sherds that we've had from here. Some pieces that are perhaps a bit earlier, so Iron Age, which is starting to link this area in with the area they've had at the other side of the lake. So kind of crossing that gap a little bit.
Like, genuinely, thank you all for coming down here. Thank you all for taking part as well in unravelling a little bit of the mystery of this side. Thank you for coming down.
After 2 years of digging, we have found heaps of finds, basically about 50,000. And that means that they have to be recorded, context numbers put on the finds. We can then make the archive, which will then be available to everybody, all and sundry, whether it's archaeologists or local people. The big thing is to get our finds out there to the public to see them all. We have found animal bone on site, which was unexpected because the soil is very acidic and therefore bone degrades and you get very little left. But we have found a beautiful skull of a dog, quite a small dog, in the waste pit between the two pottery kilns. The bone from that particular waste pit has given us a great insight into the animals that were wandering around in Roman times. This dog skull is quite a small creature, probably about 16 inches high. That's been measured by the limb bones that we have found, the long bones. Julie Curl from Sylvanus, who does animal archaeology, has done lots of work on this skull and has shown that it was about 2 years old. But we think she looks a bit like this. She's drawn this wonderful picture of a dog, as you can see. It's sort of a Spitz type breed. We found these bits of pot, and it's not local ware, it wasn't made here. This piece of pottery came from the Nene Valley area, which is near Peterborough. Two more pieces. It's always joy when you find two bits of pottery apart from each other and then they go together and fit. I'm sure in our 15-odd thousand pieces of pottery there'll be many more pieces that fit together nicely like that. This large lump is called a saga, which was a very large clay pot fired in one of the kilns. It may have been used for a smaller, delicate piece of pottery to be sat inside it. And so when the firing happened, the heat was dissipated throughout the smaller pot. So after 2 years digging, we have nearly 50,000 finds. The archiving will go on and on and on. What I do wonder is how many finds we'll have after 20 years digging. It's quite a monumental task ahead of us, but one in which all the volunteers are thoroughly enjoying themselves, taking part in this wonderful experience to learn more about Roman Aylsham, not just Roman Aylsham, the history of Aylsham over the last 2, 3 or even 4,000 years. I really do believe it will become an annual event that loads of people want to attend, and I hope and pray it goes on for many years.